Hello, everybody. This is my name is Ken Kirschman. We're a Sports Video Group. Again, thank you for joining us. That is a tough act to follow, and actually, I do want to continue it a little bit because Rick, I know we lost a couple people this year, so I wanted to have Rick Bagby just talk for a second about Mike, and I mean, we lost also.
Sure. Thank you. It is a tough act to follow, and so for those of y'all who did not know Mike, I just encourage you to just go online and just Google it, look him up. There's some fantastic stuff out there. But the Pioneer Award that just got presented, there are some fantastic names that have received this award. Another name I want to throw out there is Jeff Small, who was awarded this several years ago. If you are looking for a true pioneer in this business like Mike, go look up Jeff as well. The things that we do on a daily basis, like he did 25 years ago, and we had no idea how this business was even going to go, and he figured all this stuff out. And he was a true pioneer that I don't think people should forget. Ken also alluded to Chad Munn at BYU that we lost this year. So some really great names in this industry that we've lost this year and in previous. But I just encourage you to go take a look at these Pioneer Award winners over the previous years and just look up some of these guys. There are some fantastic names on that list.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Rick. Really appreciate that. Anybody else want to say anything about Mike? Okay, I will say that he was, he took this event to new levels and new heights. Getting us over to the Hall of Fame was so exciting for all of us at SVG to have that party and the Chick-fil-A and all that kind of good stuff. It was great. So miss Mike every day. I thought I would, you almost come here and you see somebody and you're like, oh, Mike's, you sort of, for a second you see a bald head and a beard. You're like, oh, there's Mike. But he's with us forever in spirit. So thanks, Mike, for everything you did for us. Okay, so let's jump into hard left turn into production best practices. If anybody has any questions, please just raise your hand. We have mics around. So our goal here is to answer your questions on best practices because there has been so much change in this industry in the last 2 to 3 years, let alone last year, actually, as far as how to approach a production and what the demands are. Rick, let's cue up your video. Or do you want to set up your video first, and then we'll play it?
Oh, Lord. Are we playing this video? I should never send this to y'all.
Huh?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right. Let's roll Rick's video.
You'll get a kick out of this.
Taylor Pipkins drives it, deep left center field. Blum and Donaldson, look! See you later!
Ready, 6, take 6.
Right, I want to see the side swing Stanton.
Take 7. Ready, 4, take 4. Ready, 1, take 1. Ready, 3.
Stanton, stay there.
3.
Abby, which one's better, X or Y?
Ready, 7.
Let's go. I want to go
7.
Okay, I want to go silver,
ready, 5
X,
when she gets
gold,
in there.
red,
ready,
purple.
4, take 4. Ready, 5 when she gets
Copy.
in.
Coach coming out.
Ready, good. We got
Pitcher
time.
coming out.
Ready,
Plenty of time.
Ready, 1,
we're going to stay
1.
here and do
ready,
replays.
Ready, 5, take 5.
Silver.
Ready, silver. We'll get a chain. Give me the chain. Watch your
Copy.
focus. You said
55
silver?
is new pitcher. 55.
You said, are we staying or going?
Staying. Silver. Plenty of time.
And affect silver.
Replay.
And roll silver. Keep it on
X.
that.
X is next. Go X.
Roll X is on X.
Gold is next.
Ready, gold.
And gold.
Roll gold is on
Ready,
gold.
red.
Ready, red.
And
Stay, David. I see you.
red.
Roll red is on red.
Ready, purple.
Ready, purple.
And purple.
Roll purple is
Ready,
on purple.
orange.
Ready, orange.
And orange.
Roll orange is off orange. Ready
The chain going on, and that's it.
Stay camera 5, ready out to 1. And out to 1, 7, you're clear.
Hey, Tape, great job on that sequence. That all looked really good.
Awesome. All right, Rick. My mom always said don't point, but I guess clearly.
All right. So Drew might actually be laughing down there. I don't know, but if anybody knows anything about me, I'm sort of an animated person. If you watch the very beginning of that, I'm sort of like kicked back like this. If you saw me in the control room, I have on no shoes. I'm sort of kicked back, and then all of a sudden something happens, and then my juices start flowing. So a little bit about that, and we're extremely lucky to sometimes have a home team. that is doing really well. In this situation, obviously, the home team is doing really well, and we've got fans there, so we've got a lot of reaction to do that. One of our main thought processes is obviously trying to sell the venue that we're in. Not to say that when Kentucky didn't do something well in that game, we didn't sell Kentucky. We just didn't have as much Kentucky to sell as opposed to Clemson in that manner. But our main goal a lot of times is obviously selling what's the atmosphere that's there. And we were lucky enough to be able to do that in that sequence and in that entire series. I don't know how far you want me to go with.
Well, let's talk about as far as best. How did this video kind of encapsulate some of your best practices that you sort of?
Good question. So, best practices. None of that happens without planning. So that is going into that game. I'll get a little feedback. We had 7 cameras. Okay, we had 7 cameras. We had 4 tape operators. So we had plenty of people to be able to cover the game and to be able to roll back the different angles. So. Our planning going into this is for that moment right there and for a big end of the game scenario. So our tape meeting is setting up which team or which cameras are following Clemson, which cameras are following Kentucky, which cameras are going straight to crowd, which cameras are staying on the hero. So all of that is set up in the tape meeting. I did very little directing of where to go during that because everybody already knew where to go because that's my planning. So for those of you that are trying to duplicate something like that, you're not going to duplicate it in a moment. You're only going to duplicate it with planning in your camera meeting. One of the things that I did not do there, if you go back and look at it, like I don't focus a lot on the opposing team. I did have cameras on Kentucky. The pitcher that gave up the home run, that's not a lot of my MO. I try to go to the positive, not the negative. I know, like if Jimmy was still here from yesterday, like he's probably going to tell you that you should have shown the pitcher that gave up the home run. That's not really the way that I operate. I try to stay in the positive. End of the game scenario, if that had been if there had been a situation where I needed to. A senior that had, and if you see the last game, I do focus on the seniors that are crying because it was their last game. I do show some of that emotion, that raw emotion, but in that scenario right there, the raw emotion, I'd rather have the good emotion, not the bad emotion. And I set all that up in our pregame camera meeting, and so I'm really relying on the the camera operators to go where they're supposed to be. Again, giving them a little direction on staying with the person putting the chain on, watching your focus, those type things. But we really set all that up in our pregame camera meeting.
Right. So Lee wanted to bring in the 2 end users here, the 2 colleges, universities. So Lee, how do you kind of approach sort of similar, your productions and your best practices?
For us, it's usually when we're doing a 7-camera shoot, or just one of the Diamond Sports, then for the most part, our director that's doing a lot of our linears are also the ones that are doing our digitals. Our camera guys are going to be the same in our digitals, and we keep our network crew and our in-venue crew pretty separate, and they're pretty consistent. We're LSU, we're primarily a freelance and staff. And so it enables it to where we just have that consistency. So a lot of the conversations that they have that we'll do at a digital level, we'll also do at a linear, and it'll follow through. What's ended up happening was, though, our guys know each other. The two crews will know each other. So our in-venue cameras are in all of the tape machines in our in-venue. So we're doubling up on looks, and we're giving everything. And so it gives everyone a lot more freedom. For some of the linears where even when the network directors will come in, our PTZ cameras at baseball that we have, that we usually focus on getting crowd shots, and we'll do that. We renumber those cameras for the network show. So while our PTZs are able to get all the fan experience stuff during the inning breaks and do that, but he's always listening for his camera numbers there to be able to give the shots. We've got a couple of directors that come in on the network that they will just use the hell out of the PTZs, and they will use the hell out of our in-venue cameras, and so it just makes it to where that 6-camera shoot that they have on the network side, that 7-camera shoot has now turned into a 12. Has now turned into a 14, and we can do it pretty comfortably.
Right. Now, was there a time when you didn't share the resources like that, where they were kind of two separate buckets? Or?
A little bit, yeah. It ended up, early on, just because everyone was really trying to, figure out exactly where everything was going, and everything stayed isolated, and we didn't have that synergy happening. About 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, we made a pretty concerted effort to where we knew we needed to up the game on our in-venue productions across the board. And previously it had been with an older administration, it had been something that had been managed primarily with our properties group, and that all got flipped on over to where all just becoming under athletics. So we were able to move some money around and move some resources around to do that. So once everything got comfortable, then as we went on, the two islands started graying a little bit, and we started seeing how can we get both, get the best of both worlds and all that stuff. So, we have far more latitude in the digital events, because our directors will know that, this guy, these guys are shagging, so these guys can get, close-ups and all stuff. So it works out really well for us.
Right.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Hey, so one of the things that Lee mentioned there at the very beginning was digital shows versus linear shows, sort of treating them the same. That is, I think that's huge. If you are involved in both digital and linear shows, or if you're in smaller shows to bigger shows, however you want to describe it, treating everything the same every day is a huge key for me. We don't take a day off just because it's a digital show in the middle of the week versus a non-conference team. We put the same energy, focus into all those games so that we are ready for a bigger game when they do come to town. That's a huge pet peeve of mine, is that we're linear ready every day.
Yeah.
Every show that we do, if they called us in 30 minutes, and I've told these people this before, if they call us in 30 minutes and say, hey, we've got a rain out somewhere else, we need to elevate your show, yeah, we're ready, take us. That should be our mantra every day, and I would encourage you all to have that same sort of mindset, that if when you're going into a show, think of that show as the show, because if you do every show to that level, when it is time to step it up and do the big shows, you'll already be ready.
We've already started talking about it, where for this coming year, a point of emphasis for us is going to be that we want our network productions to be at the point to where it's muscle memory. To where the same things, we don't have to do promos in our digitals, but we'll do promos in our digitals just so that you can go through the motions in the control room, they can talk and they can do the flow, and nothing is a unicorn when they get into the linears, dependent on who's coming in on the network side. But, that's been a point of emphasis that we've done, because what we've seen, the success, what we've seen on the camera end, maybe we haven't been doing it that diligently to that point in the control rooms for some of the other things, and so we've been identifying what that is and just get it to where the AP and the AD and the producer and the director, that everything is just it's seamless.
Right. Any questions from anybody? We got two experts up here. Any questions, comments? All right. So Ben Dolinky with Grass Valley, I wanted to bring you into this conversation. We have a video from you as well. So
yes.
Do you want to set up that video?
Yeah, this is a video from Texas A&M. They're using our Grass Valley LDX 150 cameras as well as a Cayenne switcher. So this is just a clip that was sent to us by Texas A&M showcasing student production that was for a linear broadcast using our equipment.
Hit that well to right, and A&M out to the initial lead, 2-0.
Barbara! Bye! With the runners on for Arkansas to start this inning. Slow bouncer to Kennedy.
think you still got to go get Sorrell.
Sorrell to left. They're going back. Caden Sorrell has just given Texas A&M the lead.
Caden Sorrell comes up and does it for the Aggies. 104 off the bat, off the scoreboard, a no-doubter against one of the best relievers in the conference in Zach Cowan.
Awesome. So you want to tell us a bit more about the LDX, because I know that, for example, at NAB introduced Shout Out the Field function within that, which I believe is the first camera in that form factor to have that. But tell us about the LDX lineup and the flexibility there.
So our LDX brand 100 series in particular, that's the 110, 135, and the 150. One of the key components to that is kind of what everybody up here is talking about is, doing bigger broadcasts. So you got your board shows, you got linear, you've got your digital shows and everything. So to be able to have broadcast quality equipment that everybody's looking for, that high grade stuff, to be able to perform your students, to get them prepared to do a board show, to be exactly like a digital or a linear show is, I think, quite important. So what our cameras enable the staff to do is, with our direct IP, is that you can put one of our cameras in anywhere in the facility that you want. So it could be at the football stadium, it could be at the basketball arena, an aquatic center, and as long as your network is set, you can just plug it in and ready to go.
All right, awesome. So Greg Kokorski from Shot Tracker, we have another video. So obviously Shot Tracker, many people here may be familiar with it, but let's take a look at the video. Do you want to set this up video real quick?
Excuse me, good to meet everybody and be here. I would say just pay attention to the last 10 seconds, and then I'll kind of like connect the dots afterwards, so if you want to play it. So, yep.
Awesome. Excellent. So Greg, obviously visualizing data is a big part of the future of sports production and sports content experiences, but also you have to start with tracking the data. So you want to discuss how the system kind of works, the ecosystem that's involved there? And
Sure, thanks, Kent. So Greg Kokorski, Shot Tracker. We are a data analytics company. We've got player and ball tracking technology that we put in place, sensor-based technology inside basketball arenas and practice facilities. So half of our business is catered for coaching analytics, tech on the bench, scouting, player development. We very quickly learned in the last 5 years that that same discrete data, your IP, is important from a fan engagement standpoint. So when we think about live events, we don't think about just in-venue and video scoreboards. We think about social platforms. We think about broadcast, of course, anywhere that your IP can be connected. So when I said pay attention to those last 10 seconds, you've seen what we've done with partners like the two on my left and right over time with respect to graphics rendering solutions, interpreting discrete XYZ data overlaid on top of video and being able to storytell. But we've also leaned into to different sciences like AI to be able to streamline those workflows, right? So I've heard up here today, time, money, resource, efficiency, scale, workflows. I would argue that live moments are the heartbeat of collegiate athletics and sport. And so we can lean into these web-based tools, these SaaS tools that within 10 to 15 seconds with the control of just an input, you're able to then socialize and show those 3D animations that were up on the screen behind me. All sponsorable, monetizable assets that you should be thinking about in terms of not just communication and resonating your brand, the value of your school, the value of your team, maybe more importantly, the value of that student athlete, but attaching a brand that represents your core values and that athlete's brand DNA to establish kind of like that footprint across those platforms that I discussed earlier.
Great, excellent. So let me ask you a best practice question then, because obviously it's easy to gather data, right? But then the trick is really how do you kind of then sort through it? Who do you partner with to visualize it? So once someone starts to, first of all, let's say they say, okay, we're in. So then what are some best practices to make sure that they can maximize the use of that data?
Yeah, so
staffing and everything.
right, and with the power of AI, and by the way, I've just walked the room over the last day and a half and heard whispers like AI is going to replace humans. I will say this first and foremost, it's not a dangerous use case or science or technology. I was listening to an NVIDIA number 2 a couple months ago in Silicon Valley speak to this and said, you shouldn't be afraid of AI. You should be concerned because you're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose the people that adopt AI. And so to answer your question, first off, Ken, we're platform agnostic on the backside. We're not dependent upon sensor-based technology. We have all of your live data coming in, your event data, your box score data for each and every sport. And through AI, we manipulate, make sense of that in real time. We do the heavy lifting, and then it's just a press of your button to be able to maximize that storytelling on the front end, no matter where that's at. And so it's at scale, and yes, there are additional software platforms, graphic rendering solutions that can show you the halos effect and certain things that potentially you can't do just with that click. But when I said, again, look at those 3D renderings and visualizations with integrated brand sponsors, that's web-based. There's no machinery needed for that. There's no software. It's AI, and it's basically doing the job for you.
Right, excellent, great. So Drew, from the Ross Video perspective, I mean, what are you seeing when you look at the markup? You have so many products, so it's kind of hard so let's hone in on 2 or 3. But what do you see as some of the hottest technologies that you guys are offering now, new products from NAB? And then what are you seeing in the marketplace as far as how you guys can help visualize this data and take storytelling to a new level?
Yeah, definitely when it comes to recent announcements, one of the big new announcements we had at NAB was Carbonite HyperMax, which is basically taking Carbonite and making it into a much more scalable hyperconverged platform that really allows you to expand to just ginormous amounts of I/O as well as up to 8 MEs with the Carbonite platform. So in the past, trying to do anything at that scale was really restricted to our Acuity line. Now, a lot of universities, are using Carbonite as a switching platform, and now for those larger shows, we can expand up to a much larger platform using the same Carbonite switcher that students and TDs are used to training on. So it allows us to expand the productions on a platform that people are very familiar with. But the cool thing with HyperMax is you can really divvy up the system how you want it. So it works inside the Ultrix platform, which is kind of our hyperconverged routing platform, and uses our SPDE blade technology, which are basically software-defined production engines that you can turn into either a Carbonite ME. You can turn them into mini MEs or HyperMax or Carbonite Ultra scenes that you can really just, depending on the need of the production, you can change up exactly how your system is set up so that, say you need to run 3 broadcasts during the same time, you can, have 3 MEs dedicated or 2 MEs to each show, and they're all using the same router I/O. So like when Lee's example of using like the mix of truck and venue stuff, everyone has access to all that same I/O, but can be switching their own shows completely separate, but it's all in one platform. So really that just blend of everything into a one form factor, one device, makes it a lot easier for people to operate. And then on like the graphics front, Expression Testra for in-venue displays, was constantly, being adopted everywhere. I came from 2 venues that were huge Testra adopters with Mercedes-Benz Stadium down the street and then SoFi Stadium in LA. And it's only getting bigger and better. We have some new hardware that does 4K 2-fill key in and out. That's basically making it to where we can do a lot more with a lot less. And a lot of people, like to hear that because, the in-venue space is an arms race when it comes to LED. Everyone's trying to outdo each other with bigger and better LED screens. And so having the ability to fit more into a single box just makes it a lot easier to use the tools and, still have a great production with it.
Right, excellent. So, obviously, one of the, I guess, consistent themes from all of you sort of is that break down some of the silos that have kind of been built between the in-venue shows and the broadcast shows and the digital shows, and sort of share as many resources as possible. You're nodding your head, so you want to maybe expand on that as far as that definitely where we're at as far as right now. It's time to break down the silos, share the resources, I/O as much as possible.
Certainly, yes. The reason why I'm shaking my head is because that is probably the most common workflow that we're able to come across that is cost effective for us, right? So obviously, the two shows have two totally different needs. In-venue show obviously is engaging the fans inside, but it also has a sales element to it. The linear digital show that we're producing on the other side then is beholden to your ESPN or whoever you happen to be producing it for. So obviously then they're selling that side as well. Those two sell sides don't cross, but everything else should cross some way, shape, or form. And there's, you have 4 cameras that are lined up across. You got camera 1 and 2 in basketball, camera 1 and 2 in basketball, and you got 4 cameras sitting there sort of lined up across from each other. Why do you have 4 cameras lined up across from each other? Why not have 2 cameras or 3 cameras and then take a 4th one and put them somewhere else and have a different resource somewhere inside the venue? Just because the old school was you mirrored one show and a second show, right? Because they were selling and engaging fans, or they were producing for TV and they were running a commercial over here. It doesn't have to be that way from a camera standpoint, especially. So yeah, that is the way to get more for less out of your show if you can share those resources and then take those same resources and divide them up in different places. Yeah, you're gonna have a better show.
Right.
Yeah, we kind of think the same. If you go into our men and women's basketball, game cam's going to be game cam.
Yeah.
And so we share that camera. Our in-venue, group takes the hit for that camera's not available for the fan engagement. But usually, what we'll do more times than not is not really diminish that crew. If it's digital and game cam is being shared by both, I may not have anyone. We won't have anyone on the network side at one of our slash cameras. So I'll throw the guy who would be normally doing game. He'll be at slash. So we've just added a slash look for both rooms, and it teeter-totters, but for the most part, that camera, the trade-off is that slash guy is then working venue because he's got a great angle at a lot of the Fan X stuff that we can knock out. So it's just those systems we work out where efficiencies, and then it just makes everything and all around better. Our goal is always to try to make our productions look a lot bigger than what they are. Mm-hmm. And with now, and it's going to become more of an emphasis moving forward with everything that's going on the NIL front and everything that we've talked about. Now is trying to do it as inexpensive as possible. Right,
sure. So you mentioned the slash position. Rick, you and I discussed. You want to discuss the evolution of your camera deployment philosophy and sort of assignments and kind of stepping away from some traditions, getting shots in the dugouts and things like that.
Yeah, I'll finish on that thought first. So one of the things that we're trying to do right now is we are trying to purchase another camera, and our selling point is that we can use it for both broadcasts. So you can use it, while you're on air, you can use this camera for on air, and then in a break, that camera can go to your in-venue side for your in-game fan engagement. So there are ways to actually do all that and actually save some money and monetize it. But so so sharing those resources between in-house and production is something. So transitioning sort of to that question, one of the other things that trying to do more with less. Let's sort of take that theme for a second. One of the things that we're trying to do, we're not able to go out and say, hey, let's add 5 more cameras to a show. We're trying to make our shows look bigger than they really are a lot. That one of the things that we're working on is trying to get our camera operators to maybe do some more non-traditional stuff. And now I'm gonna go to sort of our diamond sports in this scenario. If you're in diamond sports and you got high home and you got center fields, you got camera 2 and camera 4, like you really can't give those up. That's your game camera. I mean, they're there. But you've got other cameras in the venue that we're really working on. So in that shot that you saw right there, able to hang on that hero in the dugout much longer. If that camera's assignment, a lot of times is going to be a side swing, or if you're not facing a batter, it's going to be the shag look, right? Well, if I miss a side swing on the next batter, or if I miss a shag down the line on the next batter because I stayed on that hero longer and was able to cut back and forth and allow the announcer to continue to stay on that story a little longer. Those are some of the things that we're trying to work on. I can cut to that camera. I can cut back to camera 4 for the pitch, and I can come back to that same camera that's sitting in the dugout, and we can tell those stories. We're not missing a play. We're not missing a pitch. But we're trying to do some more stuff like that where we stay on the story longer, and we're able to engage. I don't have to add an extra camera to isolate a hero, right? I just missed a side swing or a side look maybe, and she might not even swung at all. Who knows? And so those are the things that we're working on to try to get more with less, or more with the same, really, not less, more with the same. Is that we're trying to just think outside the box a little more and give some of our camera operators some different assignments, or just change up their assignments when big stories come across, so that we can stay with those and focus on those and make our show look a little bigger.
Sure. So, okay, Ben, Greg, and Drew, going to bring you guys back in here because I'm going to zero in on some key topics that each of you, I'm going to call you experts in, okay? Sure. So Ben, obviously, Grass Valley, a lot of cloud, a lot of IP, camera system more flexible. So when you look at the college audience, which, still is kind of just testing the waters, if anything, on cloud, definitely embracing IP, but how do you think they should approach, some of the cloud infrastructure products and where they kind of fit in? Because this market seems like it would be a natural fit given the scale of the shows for the cloud, but obviously there's a lot of questions to be asked, and CapEx, OpEx, all that kind of. So how can they navigate those waters of understanding?
That's a great question, Ken. So at Grass Valley, what we're looking at in regards to cloud production, I know all these guys we talk to at colleges, and they're working 200 plus events a year. So I think one of the things that we look for is how can we give them more time back? And with cloud production, I think that's one way that we can do that. So with our AMP platform, you're able to do remote production. So you can do things like Sports Producer X, where you could have a full production going on for, let's say, a board show. Somebody could operate that from a remote location. They could be, let's say, in the press box, for instance, and now your crew size, especially on the full-time staff, has been reduced. You don't have to have as many people on site to do just a board show with a couple cameras. You might be pulling in some feeds from network. You could be pulling in some feeds from your own in-house cameras, but it gives the full-time staff some ability to maybe reduce the number of events that they have to be on site for. So I think one way that cloud production will help people in the future is to reduce the amount of time you have to be on site.
Right. Excellent. So Greg, you're gonna be our generative AI expert, whether you want to be or not. But as far as, you mentioned people talking about it and the fears out there. You mentioned some of the great comment that I heard also at the NBO Tech Summit about, you're going to lose your job to someone who's using AI. So how should crews investigate AI? Because it's moving so quickly and so rapidly, and there's developments every day of what's the best platform, what's not. So how do you kind of think people should kind of sort through the noise to find the signal, if you will?
Listen, I think it starts with understanding, we've talked about workflows and value creation and what you're trying to achieve from a production goal setting standpoint. We think of AI as not just a tool to get a job done. We think as it truly as a platform, and it's got many different utilities and use cases in and around any body, person inside an organization, and that it needs to really be an organizational, institutional type of decision versus something that just a coaching staff or an athletic department leans into, right? And so there are open sourced AI tools that are out there today. I mean, I wear a revenue producing hat, and we use it consistently across our sales team to be, better on behalf of our partners at the end of the day, right? It's not just a product, a video solution technology in terms of live game events, right? So I think you need to think about it holistically. I will say when we go in and sit down with partners, though, it's that type of conversation, and we're not going to push anyone down a certain road that doesn't, fit relative to their style and who they are. And again, I mentioned DNA earlier. I think culture, I think it's all very, very important. I will say, just larger picture, if you wouldn't mind me going back to consolidation, we have a different definition in and around consolidation. For us, it's not about cameras and hardware and infrastructure. It's really about these fine lines between coaching staffs and their use cases and the people that are in this room, which is truly then, when you look at it, an athletic department. And in the past, even 2-3 years ago, and again, AI has helped us with this, a coach would be curious about data and analytics and video that we're bringing in from institutions, partners, and only think about it as far as like their use cases for player development or tech on the bench. Now they care about fan engagement. They're trying to build the biggest war chest. It's really integrated in terms of like the adoption of those types of visualizations and use cases that we showed on that video earlier. And so I was sitting with a Big 12 coach 2 weeks ago on their home turf, and they were recruiting another Power 4 invitee on campus, and they said, how quickly can you put up that 3D rendering of this student athlete? It was a female, women's student athlete on our video Jumbotron in our game arena so that we can wow her when she walks into that arena. And through the power of AI, we were able to do that in about 30 seconds. And that girl signed with this Big 12 team 2 days later. So they actually thought out of the box and used it as a recruiting tool over and beyond. But it was part and parcel to their facilities, their video, content team, their media team. They were all engaged in embracing it all together that one day.
Is that your proprietary AI technology? Or is it...
Some of it's proprietary, some of it we use, it's open source that's out there, open AI and what have you, to drive use cases. We've invested in LLMs on the backside so that a lot of these tools are voice command as well, so you don't even need to press buttons, you just speak into and say, hey, show me such and such as 3-point shots from the left corner, and that's visualized immediately, either for a fan engagement tool on demand within 10 to 15 seconds, literally. And side by side, those graphics, you can have video too. So it prompts that video with those discrete data points, that metadata, and then it's right in the click of your hand. So you wouldn't have to game plan, think through it, send whomever is responsible for video content within an athletic department on fan engagement side, on the production side, on the coaching side, to come back 24 hours later to be able to say, here's what I've been able to mine and find. It's literally there through this ecosystem within 20 seconds. It allows coaches to spend more time with their players. It allows creatives to do what I said earlier as far as creating content, thinking about content, leveraging not just inside athletics, but across your university and your platforms, and engagement to promote and market your schools and student athletes in the right way.
Right. And when you look at the future of personalization of sports content, I think that clearly all the data is not going to be able to be monetized properly or distributed properly to thousands and millions of fans, because they're all going to want their, within 4 years, we're each be getting in our own.
Everybody has a different need and use case, and you're right, personalizing it. And the brands, then your brand partners, your sponsors, your advertisers, they can be part of that personalization too. So we're not just about, truly, people say, I don't want to be a vendor, I want to be a partner. I mean, we really think of ourselves as the latter, because not only are we saving you money, we're bringing tools and utilities and solutions that help you make money. And I think that's really big in terms of the ever-changing landscape of, college sports, right, that we all live in today.
Excellent.
Can put a 4-year timeline on that, by the way.
Maybe 3.
But I think that tied in with all that, if you start looking at everything, then it means for staffs at the schools at the level that then your staff producer, your staff AP, the ones who really are more in the storytelling and the sports-minded, part of it, then the first task you should be throwing at them right out the gate is that they have to become familiar with prompt engineering. They really have to know, how do I need to know how to ask this? How do I set it all up to get this final result throughout whatever the AI tool is, right, to do all that, and in that timely manner. 30 seconds in a broadcast, I don't even know how timely that is, for anything like that. So it's as it's
You set-
exciting
set
to
up
see.
in a break, come out of
Yeah.
a break. That's about
Yeah,
right.
it's exciting to see all the tools that are coming out and all the different possibilities with it. But it's going to be a point of emphasis that'll need to be made on the staff level to train them in the prompt engineering and to learn how to set that up.
Right, right.
But it is a way though, like talking about making smaller productions seem bigger. It is a very useful tool, looking ahead to make it to where, what you would in the past need a huge research team to kind of figure out storylines or like specific staff points, in Lee's instance, having the right prompts, you can generate all those types of key data points that makes it easier to tell that story in a much timelier manner. That might be, hard for a normal person to just be watching the game and trying to figure out where those storylines are. And then in other instances, it can just be used simply to just point out what's relevantly happening in the data. Like with Greg's company, with Shot Tracker, with all the data points that might be coming in, the AI can be used to basically point out like, hey, these numbers are trending in a positive direction for this team, or keep an eye on these types of stats because the AI is able to see that these might be important to the way the actual game's flowing.
Sure, sure. Well, I know, talking with Scott Gooderman at the PGA Tour real quick. I'll tell us in 30 seconds. But they did 30,000, they did captioning for 30,000 shots at the PGA Players Championship. They used AI. They had to put in originally all kinds of different, like 800 ways to describe a drive. But then you have to put in context and say, okay, so the first guy who's the first drive, you don't want the graphic to say, Rick just hit the longest drive of the day, because it's the first drive. Of course it's the longest drive. So there's a lot of rules, and you got to work with the systems and understand the prompting to get out of it. And one thing I did say, I said, what about narration and automating that? He's like, you know what, you're always going to want a human calling the ultimate game, because a human's never going to say, do you believe in miracles? Yeah. That's not right. Or like Jim Nantz at the Masters, not say anything for 7 minutes. Like the AI is going to be blabbering away about Rory McIlroy as opposed to and destroying that whole moment. So,
yeah, going back to great comments, I 100% agree with you, Lee. I will just say, when I said LLM, there's a large language model, and AI is learning, right? And so it's about understanding your workflows, your work models, understanding, kind of inside. And listen, you want to be creative, you want to go outside the lines too. So in the moment, you can't anticipate everything. Like we're always challenged with that. But we, just using coaching as an example, for the last few years, we've had to capture and trap every query that comes from all different coaches, and they call pick and roll something different than pick and pops, right? And so understanding what Duke says and asks for versus Kansas versus the head coaches on demand, right? And you got to be 100%. We wouldn't want to risk like you in the moment live event producing something, asking a question, and like it doesn't respond, right? So again, this is about, go back to what I said earlier, it's humans that adopt AI. You're not, to your point, relative to golf, like the humans are never leaving, right? Or the USA moment with, do you believe in miracles? And it's not a replacement, it's additively, it's a, opportunity to plus everything up over and above where it's at today.
right, for translation, that kind of stuff.
Yep, for sure.
So before we leave, so Rick, what's sort of like any kind of key things that are on the horizon that you're looking at for new technologies, or what are you looking to learn about, I guess, over the next year?
Good question. I'm looking to learn about when the judge signs the paperwork for rev share, and then we'll figure everything out from there. Honestly, I've been thinking about this a little bit. The new technology is obviously on the horizon. Where budgets are for everybody out there is sort of up in the air a little bit. Honestly, we're looking to continue to figure out how to do more with what we have in the next year or so as we start to figure out this new world of college athletics. And that's what I don't want everybody to get worried that, hey, you're not going to be able to do anything. We can do new stuff with what we have. So continue to think differently and continue to think outside the box. And as we figure out this new world of athletics, then we'll figure out how to integrate some of this new stuff that's out there. But don't stop thinking just because we're worried about our budget for the next 12 months.
Sure. Lee, I'll leave the last word to you. So how are you looking approaching next year?
I think on top of that, it seems to be a recurring theme that we've heard the last couple of days is just make sure that you're at the table with administration, keep the conversations open, and try as hard as you can to make them understand exactly what it is that we have going on and what the consequences of certain things and where we go, and and then while we're striving to do more with less, Understand that we need to, there's some things that always need to be looked at.
Everyone's going to be stumbling through this all together. It's
Yeah.
it's a brave new world every day. So
Yep.
a lot of I don't knows from your administrators, more than ever, right? Yes. Awesome. Well, thanks, gentlemen, so much. Appreciate your time.
For teams, leagues, broadcasters, stadiums, and clubs, managing a large amount of sports content is a challenge. Signiant helps streamline content to flow faster and more affordably before, during, and after the game. With industry-leading speed, production teams have access to media anywhere in the world, instantly. The Signiant platform, because media happens everywhere.